Hey everyone, those of you who follow along may have noticed that last week I had the great chance to head to Kansas City for a mastermind event that was all about strategic planning. And a lot of people have been asking me since I came back, what's it like to fly again? Because I haven't had the chance to fly since the pandemic began last year. Or what's it like to go to the United States or to be on an airplane or to cross the border? And so I thought I'd just make a video with some observations about flying again and 3 lessons learned that might help you if you're going to fly again in your future or you want to be able to travel again. The first observation that isn't going to surprise anybody is that everybody's wearing a mask. I didn't see anybody protest wearing a mask or suggest they don't need to. Everybody had one on the plane and in the airports, no questions asked. So that was definitely something that everybody complied with. The other thing that I noticed is that there's a lot of emphasis on things being extra clean, and that won't surprise you either. But I saw a lot of awareness campaigns by the airlines and the airports about how they clean the facilities and the airplanes so that way people felt comfortable. And I also noticed that they were also handing out like sanitizing wipes, almost like a Lysol wipe, as you got on the plane, because even though it had been cleaned and sanitized, it gave you the chance to wipe down your own seat, your own tray, so that way you could feel comfortable knowing that your spot was clean and sanitized. The last thing I noticed is that on the whole, there's less people traveling. There's a lot of people who want to travel. There seems to be a lot of pent up demand, but on the whole, there's less, but there's fuller flights. There's less frequency of flights. But the ones that are there are full. So on the whole, it's less busy. It's fast to get through customs right now. It was reasonably quick to get through security. But on the whole, the flights themselves are actually full. Now, 3 lessons that I learned. First of all, if you need to connect anywhere, give yourself the time and give yourself a layover that's longer than an hour and a half. And here's what I learned by that. My first flight from Fort McMurray to Toronto, heading to Kansas City, had about an hour and a half to transfer in Toronto from one gate through customs and to the next gate on a flight to Chicago. Now my flight landed an hour and 10 minutes late, and thank goodness I was by myself because I was able to get from one gate to the other gate through customs in 16 minutes. Not everybody can do that. If you're traveling with others, it's not as easy. If I had been traveling with my family, I probably wouldn't have made it because we had to wait for strollers and bags. So give yourself more than an hour and a half of time. The second thing that I recommend is get your COVID test before you try to board. When I was coming back from Kansas City, I learned this lesson the hard way. Now, I had good reason to think I didn't need a COVID test because when you're flying into Canada, you can register with an app called ArriveCan. And what it does is it kind of pre-clears you to come in and assesses whether or not you need to quarantine when you come back from the United States. And the ArriveCan app asks for you to show proof of vaccination, so I had that and I uploaded it. It also asks you either to give them proof of a negative test or proof of recovery in the last 6 months. Now, because I had already recovered from COVID in April, I had that proof of recovery and it didn't ask me for a COVID test. So I thought, I'm fine. I'm pre-cleared by the government to come back into the country. Here's my receipt. I'll show it to Delta before I board my flight. Life is good. However, when I got to the desk to check in to come back to Fort McMurray, Delta Airlines wanted me to have a COVID test. They wouldn't let me on without it. I missed my flight, and it was really, really, really stressful, and I had to reconnect. So get your COVID test ready, even if you don't think you need it. Make sure you get it. It's not hard to get, and it's not that expensive, and it'll save you a lot of grief. But that leads me to my third lesson learned, and that's that if you respect and you're courteous to the airline employees, they will fight hard for you. And I definitely noticed that they are just as frustrated by the rules as we are. And if you respect them, they're going to do everything they can to make sense for you. They're just trying to follow the rules too, and it's just as stressful and frustrating for them as it is for us. And here's what I noticed. There were people that had issues that couldn't get on flights that were really nasty to the airline employees. Now, some of the airline employees responded with their own nastiness, which isn't something that I would do. But all of that aside, what I noticed is that if you treated them with respect and courtesy and understanding that it was just as hard for them as it was for us, they would go the extra mile for you. And that happened for me because I explained to them that why I thought I was okay. And I was just super respectful to them as they were trying to work out the process. And thanks to that, I had somebody helping me who was just going through all the connections to get me home as fast as I could that she could, and just doing her best to find one. And she acted quickly and was super patient with me and acted swiftly. to get me the last seat on a connection through Minneapolis from Kansas City instead of LA. Now, the other thing that she did for me that made it super nice is that there was no change fees. Even though it was my negligence in not having the COVID test, they didn't charge me any change fees. And that tells me that the airlines understand that this is an interesting time and they're willing to work with their passengers to make it work. Now, in the end, it actually all worked out. So funny enough, I got in an Uber to go get my COVID test and I came back ready to board a flight to Minneapolis 5 hours later than my original flight to LA. And all the people that were on that flight to LA were still standing there because the plane had mechanical problems and it couldn't take off. So somebody was looking out for me, or I had really good luck because I was never meant to be on that flight. And as a result, I came back, gave them my COVID test, checked in for my flight to Minneapolis, and I took off before the people to LA did 5.5 hours later. So it all worked out really, really well. But that said, I think there was a little bit of luck there for me. So if I had to give you 3 lessons, it's book yourself long layover times, make sure you have all your COVID documentation and your tests, and just be nice to those airline workers. They're trying to make it work for you just as hard as you're trying to make it work for yourself. They're just as frustrated as you are. If you can treat them with respect, they're going to go the extra mile for you. Hope this helps. All in all, I would tell you this. If you're somebody who's ready to travel again, and don't take me the wrong way, I understand that some people aren't comfortable with that yet, but if you're somebody who is, there is a safe way to do it. There is a responsible way to do it. And I felt safe the whole time. So if you're in a frame of mind where you would like to be able to travel again and you're willing to do it safely, all in all, it was a good experience.